'Cause I don't see the monster that they see. I see a man and want him to be free. Oh, they see wickedness, but I see innocence. Your friends and family, your place is the cool night breeze blowing on your face.
Good evening, everybody, and hello, and welcome back. It's been such a long time. I think it's been at least a couple of months since we've done a live stream. It really isn't a last minute episode, but I needed more information before I could kind of talk about the things that we want to talk about this evening. But first, I want to say hello to Cherie. How are you, my soul twin sister?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you?
It's been a really, really emotional day. Surrounded by, what we got to see and watch and listen to earlier this afternoon. And I don't know why it was so emotional for me, but I probably spent a good hour at least crying after the end of that stream, because as you mentioned earlier to me, it was inspirational and I don't know, heartwarming is not the right word, I don't think, but it gave me hope, as it should everybody. But we'll get to that in just a second. I just wanted to let everybody know, I don't know, and you'll have to leave a comment in the chat if you can, but I'm still playing on low volume a song in the background, and it was going before Cherie and I popped up on the screen. I had just a little bit of it playing so that you could hear it. Context for that song: it is a song that was written by Julian Malkin, Michelle Malkin's son. He was very, very young when he wrote it. Cherie had the information pulled up for me a couple minutes ago, and well, not all the information, but anyway, I've been in contact with Michelle Malkin about this song, and just about the time I kind of went dark, I guess you could say, and stopped posting or doing any content at all, I had asked for hers and her son's permission to work on, not alter the song at all, but to work on a video that I want to post on my channel, on our channel, just highlighting this song. So I gave you a little tease. It's kind of still running quietly in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. If you can, or if it's too loud, let me know. But just a little tease, and that is going to be my goal for this weekend, or this week rather, and however long it takes to complete the project. So the song is incredibly emotional. I believe Julian was, I want to say, 12 years old, and I have his information from Michelle. I have all the information. I just don't have it at my fingertips right now. And adding this song was a last minute kind of thought for tonight. This whole thing has been tossed together really quickly. So anyway, what we're going to do tonight, I don't know if any of you saw that Jenny Holtzclaw, Daniel's sister, was going to be doing a live stream today from the steps or the area at the Oklahoma State Capitol. Or was it the Oklahoma City? I was so wrapped into it and emotional, I can't remember. But at any rate,
I think
Cherie, what was it?
Oklahoma Justice Center. I think that's what they said.
Justice Center. You're probably right. Anyway, I don't know if any of you saw that or not, or knew about it. I scrambled today getting to it to watch it on time because I thought it was later than it was. So at any rate, the whole purpose here tonight is if you didn't get a chance to watch that, I want to share it with you. And it's really hard to see to watch because the wind was really, really bad out there. So I'm trying to fix the audio, not the audio, but I'm trying to, I guess it's called denoise it. And I have managed to do some of that, but I just don't have it ready in time to get it uploaded to share without all the wind and noise. But I will get it done. We'll get it done, and we'll be able to post it eventually without the noise, or not as much noise. So just trying to dispel all the what's going on kind of thing. There was no major announcement as far as something moving in the case. There was no major announcement. I, being as optimistic as possible, was, of course we go into it hoping and praying that there's going to be a big, exoneration or new trial or something like that. But that's not how it, it's not how it went, but it wasn't bad news. It was encouraging in the sense that, at least to me, that the local state government has now taken a big interest in Daniel's case, it seems. And there was a announcement of by his new attorney who joined the case. I'm not sure exactly when. Anyway, instead of me talking, I'm going to play this for you so you can hear it. Again, it's not very clear. You'll have to mess with your own volume on it so that you don't, so that it fits you the best way it possibly can. So without any further, Streamyard has changed so intensely for me that, let's see, I think I have this queued up right where Jenny begins, and it was recorded, I believe, on a phone. So this is the best I can do for now.
Today should have been a day of celebration. Today, my parents, our family, and our loved ones should be celebrating Daniel's 39th birthday, laughing, hugging, sharing his favorite cake, talking about life, about future plans, and everything a son, a brother, an uncle deserves. But instead, Daniel is spending this birthday inside a prison cell in conditions that most people will never fully comprehend. Cold concrete, limited human contact. In reality, no innocent person should have to wake up for even a single day, let alone for 10 years. It changes everything when it becomes your family. It changes everything when you know in your heart someone you love is behind bars for crimes they did not commit. Today marks 10 years since the verdict that changed all of our lives. The day judgment was made. Not on truth, but on a story crafted to fit a narrative. A day where, in our view, the jury never received the full truth. Where testimony, investigative decisions, and forensic interpretations were presented in ways that misled them. A day where important facts were overlooked, where evidence was not handled as it should have been, and where the pursuit of justice was overshadowed by political pressure, assumptions, and the rush to convict due to the political climate to appease the community. This case wasn't built on facts. It was built on fear. It was built on assumptions, on inconsistencies, and on a narrative that was easier to believe than the truth. We're not here begging for special treatment. We are not here asking for mistakes rather than burying them and keeping them sealed. Daniel deserves a new trial, a fair trial. He deserves a chance to stand before the world with the full evidence, not the version that was filtered, misrepresented, and suppressed. As Daniel has said from day one, if he were guilty of what he was charged with, he would want us to walk away. He has always said it would have been easier for him and all of us if that were the case, so that we could move on with our lives and forget him. But instead, he is begging the public to examine every piece of evidence. When a man is behind bars begging the public to examine every piece of evidence, not hiding from scrutiny, but pleading for eyes on his case, that alone should make people pause. Just like the 46 Oklahoma families who fought to wrongful convictions and ultimately saw their loved ones exonerated, we stand firmly with Daniel. We know he is factually innocent of every single charge, and we hold unwavering faith that the truth will set him free. And today, on his 39th birthday, instead of a celebration, we stand here as his voice, as his family, and supported by thousands of people around the world who refuse to let the truth stay hidden. Now let me be clear. Oklahoma needs to hear what has been buried for far too long. In this case, we now have one accuser who admitted that Daniel never touched her. We have another who also admitted she had never even seen Daniel before trial. We have new information to share. The state's star witness, Janie Liggins, the woman who prosecution presented to the public as the grandma Daniel allegedly assaulted, has been documented asking, "Who is that?" When asked whether she recalls listening to audio recordings of interviews of Daniel Holtzclaw, she asked, "Who is that?" These are not rumors and these are not assumptions. These are video recorded statements, sworn testimony, and documented contradictions that Oklahomans have a right to know about. We know the accusers were offered a multitude of inducements, deals, and get-out-of-jail-free cards. Photo lineups were canceled out of fear that the lead accuser and others wouldn't be able to identify Daniel. Here's another shocking new revelation that should trouble every Oklahoman. Detective Kim Davis admitted in a sworn civil deposition that she didn't even know what exculpatory meant. Imagine what that means for every sex crime investigation this biased detective was part of for 30 years. Don't forget, Oklahoma City Police Department detectives Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory tipped off accusers that they were searching for a bad guy with lots of victims and that they were possibly sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. The detectives went searching for women that would fit their narrative. I want the false narrative to stop. There was never the same MO that the detectives kept repeating. They ignored troubling discrepancies by unreliable accusers who described their assailant as black and short or dark-skinned or of dark color. Daniel received the most number of years, 62 years, for the accuser who said the officer that raped her was short and black. Daniel is neither short or black. Then there was Shardarian Hill, who at the end of her recorded interview with Detective Rocker Gregory asked, "Is this good evidence?" Even if he didn't rape nobody. After she just detailed a narrative of rape and assault in the emergency room, Detective Rocker Gregory never included this information in his police report. While Daniel's appeal was pending, while he was fighting for his life, the Oklahoma City Police Department hit delete. They destroyed the entire email account of their star forensic analyst, Elaine Taylor. They destroyed the email account of lead detective Kim Davis. They said emails aren't evidence. What did the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals say about this egregious destruction of the email evidence? They shrugged and said this issue was moot. And it gets worse. When 6 respected forensic scientists, including the pioneer of modern DNA testing, knocked on the court's door asking to file a brief explaining the junk science used to convict Daniel, the court slammed the door in their faces. They refused to hear the independent scientists. Yet at the same time, the very same court stood by while Judge Henderson conducted secret ex parte hearings. Just the judge, prosecutor, and OCPD officials whispering in the dark to fix their mess. We know this because local news reporters here in Oklahoma City showed the surveillance tape of the hearings in June 2017. Daniel's appellate lawyer was never notified. He only found out when he saw it on TV, just like the rest of us. The court says it's all okay because Daniel's lawyers were eventually able to see the transcript. But you cannot call it fair when Daniel's lawyer were denied the most basic safeguard of justice, the right to cross-examine the witnesses against him. And they waited 8 years before finally allowing a DNA expert to look at those sealed records. 8 years of obstruction. They created a closed loop where only the state's voice mattered. Now let me ask you this. If Oklahoma City detectives in the highest court in the state were the reckless with their evidence, testimony, and truth in a case where the whole state was watching, what do you think they do when no one else is watching? Because if this is their standard under scrutiny, every Oklahoman should be concerned. I have gone through every emotion imaginable while living through this nightmare. Anger so deep, it shakes your bones. Bitterness that keeps you awake at night. And confusion that breaks your spirit. And despair that makes you wonder how much more one family can take. I have watched some of the people who accuse Daniel continue down paths of crime and violence. Arrests for assaults, burglary, even attacks on law enforcement officers. I watched as charges came and went, as repeat offenders cycled through the system like a revolving door. And time after time, consequences were light, minimized, or quite dismissed. And a first accused officer was given 263 years. No violent history, no criminal past, no chance to rebuild, no evidence to put a man behind bars for 263 years. I witnessed something else that shook me deeply. After the conviction, some of these accusers attempted to follow through with their civil lawsuit. The case sold to the media a follow-up victory. The truth is that 11 claims were dismissed. Not one survived. I have watched the former district attorney's office fight harder to preserve a conviction than to pursue justice. I have watched repeat offenders walk out those same doors into often with leniency or plea deals while Daniel sits in a cell year after year. How does the system continually give second chances to those who offend again and again, yet deny even one opportunity for fairness to a man whose life was taken on allegations alone? How is that justice? We stand here today at the Oklahoma Judicial Complex for the same reason, because inside these walls are answers and secrets that Oklahoma has kept hidden for far too long. Information that the public deserves to see. Information that never reached the jury. Information about the forensic testimony that helped send Daniel to prison. And we know that because local media reported on it. The jury was led to believe that Elaine Taylor, the forensic analyst in Daniel's case, was credible, competent, and trustworthy. But the reality, a panel of 6 forensic experts reviewed Elaine Taylor's trial testimony and came to the conclusion that this conviction should be overturned and given a new trial. To top it off, the detective Rocky Gregory is the son-in-law of the forensic analyst Elaine Taylor herself. Both were working the same case. That these alarm bells in any fair system. It was never disclosed to the defense team. But nobody blinked, nobody paused, and nobody cared. Former prosecutor Galen Eager relied heavily on DNA to secure a conviction, knowing full well how powerful 3 letters, DNA, are in a courtroom. And his closing statements, he lied to the jurors, stating incorrectly where the DNA came from. And then something even more concerning. Elaine Taylor retired suddenly in February 2017. The same month, Daniel filed his direct appeal. Again, we know this because the local Oklahoma City media published this information. This came after Daniel's defense expert publicly dismantled her DNA interpretation and exposed major scientific errors in her testimony. So I ask, why the rush to leave the stand? Why retire immediately after her work was challenged under scrutiny? Why are the files surrounding her still difficult to access, sealed or buried in bureaucratic shadows? Because somewhere in that building are answers. Answer this state has chosen not to confront. Answer that could change everything. If the system is confident in its conviction, open the files. If the state stands by this verdict, then seal the records. Let Oklahoma see the truth. They're hiding much more than Elaine Taylor's work on the Daniels case. We know this because of the emails obtained during open records requests where former District Attorney David Prater asked the Assistant District Attorneys on Elaine's work in their cases. Families, defendants, attorneys, scientists, and everyday Oklahomans should be asking one question: why? What is being protected? What is being buried? And how many others have been Holtzclaw? Today we are announcing a new hotline, 1-833-OKC-TIPS, to encourage whistleblowers to report similar stories of prosecutorial, police, and judicial misconduct against their loved ones. If you've been impacted by false allegations, denied records, seen evidence mishandled, witnessed forensic issues involving forensic analyst Elaine Taylor or others, or if misconduct by Detective Kim Davis, Roger Gregory, or former Judge Henderson affected your case, we want to hear from you. Call 1-833-OKC-TIPS. Together we can continue to expose the corruption. Oklahoma has exonerated dozens. Proof that wrongful convictions are not rare. They're reoccurring. And that means one thing. We need a conviction integrity unit now, not after one more innocent life is destroyed. This must step out of the dark ages and into the light of systematic, independent oversight. Justice demands it. The people demand it. We have a brand new website at freedanielholtzclaw.com that will feature newly discovered evidence, including never before seen internal government emails, open records responses, and civil depositions. It's time to end the secrets. It is time to end the silence. And today, 10 years after Daniel's imprisonment, while he fights for his life and dignity inside those walls, we turn our hearts and our plea to Attorney General Drummond. Sir, during your campaign, and again in a personal message to me in 2018, you said that if elected, you would review Daniel's case. You said you believed in transparency, accountability, and ethical governance. We believed you, and we are still waiting. Oklahoma cannot move forward until it confronts what happened in this case, and what continues to happen in others. We're asking you respectfully and urgently to honor your own words and open a full review into the Oklahoma City Police Department crime lab and the actions that led to this conviction. This is not just about Daniel. It's about restoring public trust. This is about accountability, and this is about the truth. Mr. Drummond, you have the power to bring sunlight into places where secrecy has lived for far too long. Use it. Do what you said you would do, and keep your promise. If forensic experts, legal professionals, and independent investigators are pointing out egregious errors by the Oklahoma City Police Department detectives, the forensic analysts, and even the prosecutor, doesn't that deserve your attention? And to the families watching, you are not alone. If you're fighting for someone behind those walls, please hear me. Do not give up. You are their voice. Sometimes you are their only voice they have. Keep fighting, keep knocking on doors, and even when they slam in your face. Gather transcripts, gather evidence, demand records, use social media, use your voice. Every step, every email, every share, every long night at the table builds momentum and gives your loved one hope. We are more than 10 years into this battle, and we're still standing. Because this fight is a marathon and it's not a sprint. And I believe with everything in me that we will meet Daniel at the finish line when he walks out of prison a free man. And when he does, I will not stop. And I promise you here today, I will fight for others who were targeted, silenced, or wrongfully convicted by the same machinery that took Daniel from our family. If you have information, if you've lived this nightmare, if you know someone who has, reach out. Call 1-833-OKC-TIPS. You will not be ignored. You will not be left behind. And to every supporter, donor, volunteer, and truth seeker, my family owes you a debt we can never repay. Thank you for standing with us, praying with us, shouting with us, and believing with us. And a very special thank you to our attorney, Munda, for stepping forward with courage, commitment, and heart, and for taking up the baton in Daniel's post-conviction fight. With gratitude, hope, and determination, I now turn the microphone over to Ben.
Great job.
excuse me, really quick before the attorney comes on, I want to share with you a quick background of attorney Munda, and just so you guys have a better idea. And I'll just read. It's just really quick, and I'll just read through it quickly, so you can get an idea of how great I feel, how great you should all feel about Ben taking Daniel's case. So let's see if I can do this without screwing it all up. And can't we all just get along is letting me know that this is showing in vertical form. Like I said, there's so much new with Streamyard that I can't even, I mean, it's going to take me days just to catch up on a little bit of it. So I feel like I didn't have a choice but to upload or to, schedule it in both formats. Next time I do a live stream, though, I'll make sure that we don't upload it or schedule it in vertical. If it's, I mean, I don't know. This video itself is taken vertically on a phone, on a cell phone, so that probably doesn't help either. But let me give you a quick rundown about attorney Ben Munda. And I don't know what is happening with my own connection here today, but gosh, I guess I have to remove this. Okay, hopefully it'll just start right back there so I can put this on. Okay, so Benjamin Munda goes by Ben. He's a seasoned criminal defense attorney based in Oklahoma City, specializing in high stakes cases like homicide, sexual assaults, and appeals. Here's a quick rundown based on public records and legal profiles. So his background and experience is graduated from University of Oklahoma of Law in 2013, top percent in his class, and Order of the Call of Honor. I don't know what that means. Cherie might. I sure don't. Before law school, he earned a chemistry degree from OU in 2009 and worked as a lab chemist, which is most likely going to be helpful with the DNA lies that were told in Daniel's case. So the career highlights: he started as an assistant district attorney in Oklahoma City on the prosecutor side, and he flipped to defense work. He's with Overman Legal Group in OKC, where he focuses on trial advocacy. He won the Barry Albert Award for outstanding trial work in Oklahoma County, one of few defense attorneys to snag it. So I like that. He's known for sharp cross-examinations and digging into forensic weakness, which fits Daniel's DNA case perfectly. He needs that for sure. Notable cases: co-counsel in State v. Hashhagen, which was a 2023 reversal due to the judge in Daniel's case, Timothy Henderson, having an affair with at least one of the prosecutors on Hashhagen's case. And Ben called it a question mark on every case Henderson touched, including Holtzclaw's. Although the years that Cherie and I have kind of been looking through everything, we can't quite fit anything into his case or trial, to connect Henderson's filth with Daniel's case. And he's handled appeals and post-conviction relief in sexual assault and rape cases, emphasizing evidence mishandling. So this, again, is perfect for Daniel's case. His role in Holtzclaw's case, and he'll talk about this, but it'll be kind of hard to hear him. Munda took over as lead counsel in mid-2025, focusing on post-conviction relief. He's pushing a motion to unseal transcripts and challenge the 2015 convictions of DNA forensic flaws, trace evidence, and secondary transfer claims. The distance from Oklahoma, well, I don't want to go into that because I want to let Mr. Holtzclaw, we'll talk about the rest of that when he speaks later. So I will kind of let that go for now, but I'll let him go ahead and finish speaking for himself. I just kind of wanted to give you a rundown.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Munda. I have the honor and privilege of representing Daniel Holtzclaw. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been practicing law over 13 years and criminal law exclusively for the last 10. I became aware of this case very early in my career. I joined the Oklahoma County Public Defender's Office in fall of 2015, so this was the first major trial that I was able to observe because it took place just after I started. And if you weren't there at the time, it's very difficult to describe the atmosphere surrounding this case. It was a tense time in this country. Black Lives Matter protests were taking place throughout the country, including this city, Oklahoma City, and in relationship to this case, given the nature of the accusations. Now, I want to take you to the second floor of the Oklahoma County Courthouse. It was a madhouse. It had the atmosphere of a mob or a circus. It was standing room only. It was loud. It was raucous. There were cameras from local and national news media everywhere. It was a very chaotic scene, completely incompatible with the decorum and solemnness that I would expect from a courtroom. Not only that, but there were protests just outside of the courthouse, just outside the windows of where Daniel's trial was taking place, that were so loud, chanting, lock him up, that at times the trial had to be paused because the attorneys themselves couldn't hear the testimony of the witnesses. Now, at the time, I knew nothing about the case other than the general nature of the accusations, but even then, it always struck me as deeply unfair that a conviction could take place in that type of atmosphere. Additionally, this case gained interest to me because of, let's say, my adversarial relationship with Judge Timothy Henderson. During one of my later murder trials in 2021, Robert Hashagen, it came to light that Judge Henderson was having secret sexual relationships with some of the prosecutors in the district attorney's office, and more specifically, during the time period where Daniel's trial was taking place, and this case was taking place. So that always seemed deeply unfair to me as well, and so when the family reached out to me, I was very excited to take part in this case, and since then, having had the opportunity to get to know Daniel personally, I've had the opportunity to visit him in prison multiple times, and having the opportunity to read and review the thousands of pages of evidence in this case, I've become, thank you. I've become increasingly convinced, and am convinced, that not only did Daniel receive a deeply unfair trial, but that he is factually innocent. Now, it would be too lengthy to review the 20,000 plus pages of documents to go over each and everything that I feel like resulted in an unfair conviction for an innocent man, and I think Jenny did a great job, and I'm sure some of these other speakers will do a great job of highlighting some of those things later. But one of the more recent developments which Jenny talked about is, on appeal, serious questions were raised concerning the integrity and validity of the DNA evidence in this case, what little there was. It was the only real physical evidence that allegedly tied Daniel to any of the accusers. And on appeal, it became apparent that there were serious problems with the work and the analyst in this case. And as a result, the Court of Criminal Appeals ordered a hearing to be held to discuss these matters, so it seems. And I remember this at the time. No one at the courthouse could understand how this could possibly take place without either Daniel or his attorney being present to contest the evidence or participate in any way. I still don't understand how that happened, and yet so it was. Yet for the first time in over the 10 years that this case has been pending, I, along with an expert, have been able to review those materials. Now, I want to be clear that those materials remain secret. They remain under seal. I am prohibited from discussing them publicly for now. I hope that changes eventually. What I can tell you is that I found all of these documents to be incredibly helpful for Daniel, that will demonstrate how flawed his trial was and how innocent he is when those documents hopefully eventually become public. It's not just that, as Jenny said, there's been a ton of new evidence that was resulted in part from the open records requests we've done, and also the civil discovery that took place during the lawsuit. And so all of that just goes back to my original point that all of the new evidence and all of the things I've seen reaffirm my conviction that not only did Daniel receive an unfair trial, but that he is actually innocent. And we look forward to the day when we get to demonstrate that in court. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, pull the mic up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I'd like to introduce Betsy Randolph, retired 25-year veteran of the Department of Public Safety and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Again, Betsy Randolph. I'm retired from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I worked here in Northeast Oklahoma City for many years, here at the Capitol Building, in and around the Capitol Building and the Governor's Mansion. I'm a friend of Eric's. He and I have known each other for many, many years, 25, something like that. Went to a law enforcement school together, and I grew up in Enid. And so I know of him and his family, and when all of this happened, I was just so shocked. And then as I began to hear more about the case, I was just flabbergasted to hear, in my opinion, how railroaded and what a scapegoat that Daniel became. I believe he's innocent. I believe he was not given a fair trial. I think he had inadequate counsel, basically comatose counsel, that did not even question or try to get any of the evidence suppressed. In fact, I think that's correct in saying that he just blanket said, go ahead, we'll take anything and everything that the prosecution says is evidence. Who does that? Then, not to mention, like as previously stated, the protests that were going on, they had not only Black Lives Matter, they had Black Panthers that were in the courtroom. How is that allowed to go on? How could that possibly be? If you've taken the time to look at Daniel's interview that he did, Daniel was not stupid. He is not stupid. He had been in law enforcement for 3 years. Both of his parents were in law enforcement. And so it's not like he had no concept when he was called in. It was not like he didn't understand what was happening, especially when they read him his rights. And at that point, if he were guilty, he knew all he had to do was just say, I don't want to talk to you. And there wasn't anything they could have done. He could have got up and walked out right then. But he didn't have anything to hide because he was innocent. So not only that, but then he agreed to take the polygraph. He let them take all of his clothes. He answered all of their questions. He gave them a mouth swab. All of these things. Daniel would not have done that if he were guilty. I believe that in my heart. And I think he honestly thought that once they did their investigation, that they would find out that he was telling the truth. And so it really hurts my heart to think that he was treated so unfairly, and that no one in this process, not the FOP, not the people at his agency, no one from my agency, no one said, this is wrong, and he should stop. And I really feel like if you take the time to look at the evidence, just what limited information is out there and available to the everyday citizen, you and me. Look, watch that video. Over 2 hours I sat and watched that initial interview. And I left that so angry, so infuriated by the way that he was treated. But I also felt more and more convinced as I watched him, as I listened to him, of his innocence. And I for one, think that he deserves another trial, a retrial, and he needs to have effective counsel. He needs to have protesters that aren't being heard in the courtroom, protest understand why they would be afraid, but I don't think that, I think all of those things in conjunction with the fact that he was, like I said, just a scapegoat. Was there someone operating? Was there a police officer operating, doing these things? Possibly. Wasn't someone arrested after Daniel? Accused of some of the very same crimes? So those are some things that I think every Oklahoman, like Jimmy said, every Oklahoman should care about this. Because the next person this could happen to is me, or you, or someone you love. And so that's my perspective on it. I appreciate your attention and you're giving me an opportunity to say what I think and what I feel. I don't have anything to gain by telling you what I think. I worked in law enforcement almost 30 years, 27 total. And I've never heard of a law enforcement officer that willingly did all the things that that Daniel did if he was guilty. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Betsy. All right, now introduce Oklahoma's 19th District State Representative J.J. Humphrey.
I'm the only guy that has to pull that down when he talks. Hey, I just want to say that I am very, very proud to be here. I'm very proud to stand with this family and call out the corruption of our government, of our judicial system. Guys, it's not an accident that we're standing right in front of this building. It's the Justice Center for Oklahoma. And that's what we're calling out, is justice. That's what we want to talk about today, is real justice. And I just think about, as an investigator, so I have a little bit of experience, law enforcement, 35 years. I'm a decent investigator. And what you look for when you're an investigator, you look for patterns. You look for the same thing that happens again and again. So let's go back a few years and let's talk about Macy and Gilchrist and how they destroyed evidence and not just accidentally prosecuted misconduct. They intentionally, willfully, maliciously sent people to prison, sent people to the death row. They were known for that. And guess what? They spawned children. I don't know if y'all know that, but they spawned children. They created a whole group of prosecutors and judges who act just like them, carry out the same thing. Because you know why? Because there was no accountability. Those people were never held accountable. When your DA and your judges have sex together and they prosecute the people, do we need a law degree to know that that was wrong? Guess what? I tried to pass a bill. Me and Jason Lowe reached across the aisle to a Democrat. Me and him worked together to try to pass a bill to say, we called it the Henderson bill, by the way. We tried to pass a bill saying, you can't do this. It's wrong to have sex with the DA and prosecute the person that they're supposed to be prosecuting, and you're supposed to be making sure that they get justice. There's no justice. But guess what? How much accountability did we get in that case? None. If you went and you looked at Richard Glossop's case, we won in the U.S. Supreme Court. Now that case goes through the entire Oklahoma system. The entire Oklahoma system, where they found nothing wrong when we proved that they had purposely, willfully, intentionally destroyed 10 key pieces of evidence that would have set that guy free. He sat in prison 27 years. He sat on death row, called up 9 times, 3 times on the gurney, 2 seconds away from being killed. Only reason that man ain't dead is because they got the wrong medicine. Does it sound like justice when they destroy evidence on purpose? When they write in and tell the main witness, by the way, who was the one who killed the person, we know that, and they tell that witness, your testimony doesn't line up with the medical examiner. You know what that means? It means it's false. It's a lie. Your testimony doesn't line up. It would help our case if you would change your testimony. Guys, that's perjury. That's supporting perjury. It's criminal. It's witness tampering. And then they wrote over on the side, guess what? Here's what we'd like you to say. And he went in a courtroom and said that. Guys, we caught the other day the judges in Tremaine Wood's case, where they were giving high fives to each other, talking about how congratulations they got to withhold evidence. Guys, in Glossop's case, we caught them withholding evidence. We're catching them withholding evidence in all of these cases. And guess what? How much accountability? None. Why would they not withhold evidence? Why would they not cheat? Because they never get prosecuted. They never get anything. Gittner Drummond said he thought it was too old to prosecute in Richard Glossop's case, even though we got an outstanding verdict from the U.S. Supreme Court saying they did all of this. Guess what? The other day, Gittner Drummond was caught in Tremaine Wood's case having ex parte communications with Judge Lumpkin, who is on the appellate court that was looking at that death penalty case. Guys, I'm a moron, and I know they can't do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand the law like these guys. That's the top lawyer and the top judge in our country doing unethical, unexplainable. What's accountability? Have they been called up by the bar? Have they been called up by the judicial process? Guys, if you go up the road, we're fixing to file tomorrow a grand jury in Payne County where we're putting this entire court system on call on that grand jury. We're putting the judicial, every one of them, because every one of them have been told about acts like this, that it is their responsibility. These are the accountability people, and they are failing, and they get a big fat F, and we're going to call them into accountability. We're going to hold them accountability, and now it is time that they look into this case. Guys, why would anything be sealed? I don't understand this. We're supposed to have a fair, and we're supposed to have a judicial system to where we can see, where the public can see what is going on. Why would you seal evidence? Why would you not have all this forensic evidence? Why would you not call into account the people who bastardize that process? It is time that we get our judicial system back, and I want to leave you with this. Guys, we see our country being torn apart, and the one thing that I work on, why I am so adamant about this, I don't care if you're Democrat or you're Republican. I don't care if you're female or male. I don't care what race you are. I don't care, because we all have one place when we have disagreements that we come to find justice, and that's our court system. And when our court system is corrupt, then we have to get that back. And so I'm not looking to Washington, D.C. I'm looking right here in Oklahoma. I'm asking Oklahoma to join with me, call out the corruption, get our court system back, because that's where we start on getting our state back. So thank y'all for coming, and I hope y'all support Daniel.
Thank you so much, JJ. I want to pass it on to Tulsa Police Department Patrol Supervisor and Lieutenant Jason Angel.
I don't know if I can move. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's my wallet. I need that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Angel, and I'm a 12-year veteran of the Tulsa Police Department, where I serve as a lieutenant supervising a squad of officers in one of our patrol divisions. And previously, I've worked as a patrol officer for 7 years, where I became a field trainer, training rookie officers, as well as a detective for 4 years. And I need to provide this disclaimer that I'm speaking on my own behalf and not on behalf of my department. I first remember seeing Daniel Holtzclaw's case about 10 years ago now, and at first glance, I thought Daniel was guilty and an embarrassment to law enforcement. Even though it was excessive compared to other sentencing that others get in the state of Oklahoma, his 263-year sentence didn't really disturb me, because I was so disturbed by the fact that he would use his badge to sexually assault women while on the job. What made this worse was that this was during a time of terrible turmoil for police officers in the nation. It was a daily occurrence to see negative police stories, and then to see also cities like Ferguson and Baltimore burning down and being destroyed by rioters who are angry at police actions. In most of these cases around the country, the facts didn't really matter to the media or to protesters, but the pressure for changes to be made caused some politicians and district attorneys to crumble under pressure and rush to charge officers with crimes. Like many officers, this nationwide anti-police narrative wore on me, especially as we saw a case in northeast Oklahoma where an officer in my area was put through the ringer for a crime that she was later cleared of. But as I look back on it, I saw how the prosecution in that case lied to the jury, misrepresented police tactics and training to make the officers look bad and corrupt, and tried to blame the police, the people they relied on every day to testify against the people they prosecute, by claiming that they covered for the officer. Against this backdrop, I came across a video on YouTube by Michelle Malkin called Daniel in the Den, and it was a documentary about Daniel Holtzclaw, and I realized I wasn't really very familiar with the case. However, I assumed he was guilty, and I thought I would watch this and I would debunk the claims in the video, as I thought Michelle was probably just playing team politics like so many others were at that time. But as I watched the video, I had to rethink some of my previous bias in the case. I saw how Daniel's accuser had a sexual assault exam within 7 hours of the alleged assault, and there was no evidence to support the claim that there was sexual contact of any kind, which supported Daniel's claim. I wondered how there was ever how he was ever charged with the crime, let alone convicted, with this lack of evidence. And then I saw how detectives attempted to explain away just normal things like, why were there no fingerprints of the victim on Daniel's police car like she had described? And unfortunately, it was explained away by saying Daniel's car, they couldn't get fingerprints from the outside of Daniel's car because the inside of his car was so dirty. Things like this that just didn't make sense. I started to think there may have been something more to the case than I really thought at this point. But there were still other accusers, right? Well, when I saw that the other accusers were actually solicited by the same detectives, with Detective Kim Davis saying she and her partners looked through Daniel's records of women he performed records checks on while on the job. They found black women with drug and prostitution histories and contacted these women and their families, lying to them, saying things like, we have an anonymous tip that you were sexually assaulted by a police officer. When I saw this, I was floored, and every police officer I've talked to about this has the same reaction. Like, are you kidding me? This looked to me like the most biased, dishonest, and unjust investigation I had ever seen. In some cases, they even told a woman who was denied any wrongdoing that this was a bad officer with a lot of victims. She then became an accuser. Can you imagine a reporter going through arrest records at the county jail and asking only black inmates if they were mistreated by their HR records at a Fortune 500 company, going through the records of all female employees who were fired or denied a promotion, and asking them if they received sexual harassment from their male supervisors, asking if they would like to make a complaint, and telling them that there were a lot of others who came forward. Anyone with common sense can see where something like this might lead. I wondered, as I was watching this documentary and seeing some of these things, could this be deceptive editing, or trying to make a narrative for me? What did the sources who are sympathetic to these detectives say? I watched stories from sympathetic sources who thought that these detectives were absolute heroes and geniuses who were incredible in their investigative techniques and procedures. And I saw them bragging about the same unethical and poor investigative tactics. One accuser was a black female who said the officer who raped her was a black male with darker skin than her and who was shorter than her. In her interview, she said that she would recognize the officer if she saw him again. If someone says to me as an investigator that they'll recognize the person if they see them again, this is a cue for me that it's probably a good idea I do a photo lineup. A photo lineup is where you take a series of photos, one of which you believe to be the person who was involved in the crime, and you're going to show this to a witness or to a victim. And the victim will tell you who they believe the suspect is, and will also tell you the degree of certainty, because we don't want this to be a guess. We want them to be certain that this is the person who committed the crime. If the suspect, for example, is a white male with red hair, I'm not going to show him a picture of a black male. That would be completely unfair. In Daniel's case, detectives would have made a photo lineup with Asian males who were in their mid-20s or early 30s. Why show that lineup to a person who said that a black cop assaulted her? Doesn't make any sense. And as we heard earlier, the district attorney's office and the police department conspired to say they would not show any photo lineups to anyone because the only person they did show a photo lineup to early on in the investigation did not pick Daniel out of the lineup. And they said that they were afraid that people would not pick Holtzclaw out of the lineup, so they stopped showing photo lineups. Does that look like they were trying to find the right person or not? How did detectives square the situation? They said that it was a black male who assaulted her when Daniel is an Asian male. Well, one of the detectives in an interview after receiving mild pushback on this issue said, the police lights, they can make people a little disoriented. Now, first of all, anyone who's been around police lights knows that this is inaccurate. Also, this lady spent at least 10 minutes, supposedly, with Officer Holtzclaw. And so you would think that after 10 minutes you would recognize that he's not black, but he's actually an Asian male. But that didn't stop the detectives from having an explanation. Every time there was something that contradicted the evidence, they had some other way of waving the hand and saying it's no big deal. I know it seems like that doesn't make any sense, but we're the experts here, and we have, and we'll tell you what to believe. That same accuser was the one that went to civil court and said she had never seen the person who, she had never seen Holtzclaw until the trial. So again, and Daniel was convicted on her charges and received over 60 years on her accusation alone. No evidence of a crime scene, no forensic evidence, no independent witnesses, no camera to corroborate, nothing to corroborate this claim whatsoever, yet somehow the conviction still stood. Now, how could this be possible? How could Daniel, in some of these cases, receive any convictions with this complete lack of evidence? I think the answer lies in what Detective Davis told Michelle Malkin in her documentary. She says, when you have one victim, I believed her. Well, we didn't always get things done when you have one victim. But when you have 13, and when the MO is the same, and the verbiage is the same, it just becomes a little more believable. Now, the MO and the verbiage and all that stuff wasn't the same, and we could walk by each case piece by piece to find that out. But to me, it's very telling that their strategy was that in the absence of evidence, they relied on an abundance of accusation. They threw so much spaghetti against the wall to see what would stick. And unfortunately, as the one juror who was interviewed later said, that there were so many people coming up and accusing Daniel of the same thing that they just couldn't believe that they were making all of it up. Like I said, I've been a police officer for 12 years. I've been an investigator. Every time I look into this case, I can't come out with the same conclusion. That Daniel was railroaded, that there is no evidence to support any claims that he committed any of these crimes or even had consensual sexual activity with any of these accusers. And to me, it's a case that is fabricated by biased and corrupt detectives, and where cowardly police leadership, cowardly fraternal order of police just turned their backs to Daniel because they wanted to placate the mob and not have to deal with the consequences that would come if they didn't convict him. As I look at the case, I think, what has happened over the last 10 years of my life. I've had some really fulfilling things happen in my career, positions that I've had an opportunity to serve in, some great people that I've had an opportunity to work with, and it's really been amazing. And I think how Daniel, who had many goals on the department of things that he wanted to accomplish, will never have that opportunity. But more importantly, in that 10-year period, my wife and I have had 3 children. I've got to Daniel, as you can see in the picture behind me, he was a college football player, high school football player. I've had an opportunity to coach my son playing football, watch him play football. I've had an opportunity to watch my kids dance in choir performances. Got to go to my brother's wedding. Got to see nieces and nephews. I get to see my wife and my children every day. I get to enjoy taking a breath as a free man every single day. It's something that was taken away from Daniel. And as a police officer, to me, I take that very seriously, taking away somebody's freedom. And I don't think it's something that any of us should take lightly. And recognize that this could happen to every single one of us. That's why I'm speaking now.
Thank you so much, Jason. I'm going to pass this over to investigative journalist and author Michelle Malkin.
Thank you very much. I want to thank each and every one of the supporters behind here who was brave enough to stand. And yes, it's a little cold. Thank you. I haven't gotten a chance to say hi and thank you to all of you, but it's been a long journey. And you were at this far before I came in, and my husband, we flew in here, by the way, from Florida. So we're going to get a little bit sunny back there. But this is extraordinary. And my name is Michelle Malkin. I'm an investigative journalist. I worked in journalism for 30 years in print, broadcast, radio, documentaries, and probably the most important work I've ever done is in the field of wrongful convictions. And it was 8 years ago, around this time, that my production company at the time suit in the courtroom on this day 10 years ago when he learned his fate. And the billboard had a very simple question on it. And the billboard said, what if he didn't do it? That's all. The billboard was there for less than a day. And it was taken down at the behest of a single lone agitator. Just one. And every single news outlet in this city covered the so-called outrage and quoted the same lone single agitator. It was a little bit like, where's Waldo? Oh, there she is, there she is, there she is. And based on this lone protester's complaint, the phrase, what if he didn't do it, was treated as terroristic. That's what she said it was. That First Amendment protected speech amounted to terror. And the irony is that we gave this lone agitator space in our documentary to give her opinion and her reasoning for why she opposed Daniel Holtzclaw's bid for innocence. Why she was one of those agitators who stood outside the courtroom and was in front of all your cameras. And she told us that if the right verdict hadn't been delivered, she couldn't guarantee, this was her words, she couldn't guarantee that something wouldn't happen in this city. It's clear that there was political, ideological, community blackmail that helped precipitate the wrongful conviction. But it was just one factor. And this phrase, what if he didn't do it, has echoed across decades in this state. Daniel is not alone. You've heard from J.J. Unbroken. You've heard from people left, right, and center who've been involved in the same kind of lifelong battles to clear their loved ones' names, to get them out of prison and to make it right. Every one of the law enforcement officers that's standing here understands the importance of pattern recognition, patterns of misconduct, patterns of evidence suppression, patterns of evidence destruction. And there's a reason why we're standing in front of this judicial center. I joke that it is the Oklahoma Judicial Chamber of Secrets. Unfortunately, it's not like a nice Harry Potter movie. It is a horror story for every one of the people who are fighting to dislodge the secrets there. And I have to step out of frame for a minute. In the performing arts, there's this phrase called breaking the fourth wall. I've had many not pleasant words for the local media here, but I will have to say that the local media has played an instrumental role, to the extent that they played any role at all, in dislodging secrets that would have never come to light, involving the secret hearings that happened here in June 2017, that were brazenly unconstitutional and illegal, and an affront to justice. I'm the child of immigrants. My parents believed in the American way. And for the last 10 years in covering Daniel's case and many other cases that you'll never know, names that you will never see, because many of these families do not have this kind of support system. They don't have connections in the media. And it is really hard to wake up in the morning and be proud of a country that allows these wrongful prosecutions to happen, the misconduct at every level. And I'm not just talking about biased or incompetent detectives like the ones I interviewed. By the way, that was the last interview that Jim Davis and Rocky Gregory ever allowed. Shut down after that, but you can still see the whole thing on YouTube. It's not just them. It's not just their supervisors. It's not just district attorneys whose main goal is to get elected and seal finality for every conviction at all cost. It's also the judiciary. They are responsible. They are responsible. They're the ones who are supposed to hold justice in their hand. Justice for all. And yet, look at this. Look at these pages.
citizens should know that this is what happens in a justice system. Blacked out, deep-sexed, buried, black pages. What is it that this court and those prosecutors and those detectives and the crime lab don't want citizens to know? You know what they don't want to know? That there's unfinished business that stretches back 3 decades. The forensic analyst in this case, Elaine Taylor, worked alongside Joyce Gilchrist. They may not have liked each other very much, but Elaine Taylor did what Joyce Gilchrist told her to do. And Elaine Taylor told one of Daniel's lawyers, his civil attorney, the renowned exoneration specialist Kathleen Zellner, in a sworn civil deposition, that yes, not only did she witness, but she participated in taking boxes, cardboard boxes of evidence that held the lives and deaths and freedom or imprisonment of citizens in this country, and took it down to a big old hole. That's a quote. There's a video of it. It will be on the website. Took it down to a big old hole and burned the evidence and dumped it into a pit down by the river. Hollywood can't make this up. We can scream at the top of our lungs, but the fact is that people won't care if it's not them. The protesters wanted to make this thing about race. This is not a black man. There is a black man, however, who was, I believe, wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted by the same team that was involved in Daniel's case. His name is Rayshon Mullins. And guess what? After he was convicted in the same manner and cast falsely, I believe, as a serial rapist 3 times, starting in 2009, when this state, which was the last in the country, by the way, to pass post-conviction DNA testing, asked, please, can I get my evidence retested? Was told, decades after his conviction, that the vast majority of evidence in his case had been destroyed. He does not have representation. Nobody cares about him. Astonishing. If it weren't for Daniel, I wouldn't know about a man named Bobby Russell. He is standing here today. He was a proud Oklahoma City police officer. He was falsely accused of rape during a late-night traffic stop, not unlike Daniel's. Are we detecting patterns here yet, my friends? Pattern recognition. And then at this late-night stop, a young woman falsely accused him of rape, and there's no speculation about it because it's on video. Unlike Daniel, who at the time in 2014 did not have body cameras because the department didn't have them, thank God, literally, that Bobby Russell did. And thank God that he turned it on. Because you can see that in a less than 3 minutes, he's right there. This is Bobby Russell, folks. Meet him. Please meet him. Public, please meet him. Thank you for standing up. After 3 minutes, he let her go because officers like Daniel and like Jason and like anyone here who's worked in law enforcement know you exercise discretion. That's community policing. And his reward for letting this woman go, who had blown through these stop signs and stoplights in Bricktown, was to turn around and march back into police headquarters and have the audacity to accuse him of something that didn't happen on the camera. And only after a couple of hours of investigating by the detective who finally saw the body cam did she admit that, yeah, nothing happened and it's all good. And she walked out of the police headquarters. Women lie about sexual assault and rape, and it happens more than police departments or anyone else would care to admit to you. Although Kim Davis did tell me, quite chirpily, in my interview with her, that yes, it happens. It's common. And it is an affront not only to the innocent who were accused, but real rape victims, of which there are plenty of, and which the police department should be spending their time investigating and putting their rapists in prison. If it weren't for Daniel Holtzclaw, and by the way, I'll be doing a podcast series called Corruptahoma, and I'll be talking about Bobby Russell's case. And I hope that everyone here who cares about wrongful convictions, and particularly wrongful rape allegations, will help Bobby, because like so many others, he's facing a wall of obstruction when it comes to public records requests. And here again, I will break that fourth wall and address the media, because it is your ability to use what influence you have and position you have as important protectors of the First Amendment and every other amendment, that you use the Open Records Act to bust open these secrets. Gendner Drummond has announced that he is a champion of transparency, and yet here in Oklahoma County and Oklahoma City in particular, there are many, many innocent people and wrongly accused people who cannot get answers on their basic Open Records Act requests. If it weren't for Daniel, I wouldn't know another police officer who was also railroaded. And it was a true conspiracy. I'm not just rattling a tinfoil hat. The media has talked about him. His name is D.G. Brewer. The police and prosecutors conspired to manufacture false domestic violence charges against this man. And it was female detectives who were friends with the ex-wife who made these false allegations that tried to railroad him. But he fought back. And he won. And he saved his career. And more people need to do that. But when Daniel's case came to light, people would say, hey, why would a police department do that to its own police officers? Good question. There's any number of reasons why people lie about false allegations, and there's any number of reasons why police departments would do this to their own. I can't answer that. Those would be good questions to ask a police department. If it weren't for Daniel Holtzclaw, I wouldn't have had the privilege of knowing a man named Byron Bo Boschel. He was a captain who served as the civilian crime lab supervisor during the Gilchrist Macy era. And I became friends with him in his late years when he was dying of brain cancer. And he entrusted with me many stories about what it took to unearth the scandal that was systemic, the evidence suppression, the evidence mishandling, the evidence fabrication. That is unfinished business. And it's the reason why we're all standing here today, is because there was no accountability, as JJ said, for what happened during those years. And all of those babies that were spawned in the prosecutor's office also were spawned in the crime lab as well. And when you wonder why, after a quarter century of Elaine Taylor doing the things that she was doing, and whatever secrets are hiding here, it's no wonder that there's a recipe of wrongful conviction after wrongful conviction after wrongful conviction. And it's got to end. I'm holding in my hand a flash drive that was given to me by the family of Byron Bo Boschel. And it contains internal memos. And it contains other crucial documents that show finally how it was that Gilchrist and Macy got away with what they got away with, and who was responsible, and naming names. Byron Boschel in his last days was able to complete at least 50,000 words of a manuscript of his memoir, and I intend in my podcast to read it and make it known and public and shine a light that hasn't been shown in the dark corners of Corruptahoma. We're here for Daniel. And I have crossed that line. I admit it. When I started working on his case, I thought he was guilty. I saw everybody sneering at him. The video of people mockingly singing happy birthday to him and dancing on what they thought was his grave. But I think these people never anticipated that such a wide, broad coalition of people from all backgrounds would gather together, black and white and brown. In Corruptahoma, there's no Republican, there's no Democrat, there's just corruptocrats. And it's going to take people across party lines and across socioeconomic status and across racial lines and ethnic lines in order to secure the change that we need. My husband and I and our family pledged 8 years ago, we started on this journey, that we wouldn't stop until Daniel was free. And I echo Jenny's vow as well. I've started a new phase of my life at midlife after 30 years of journalism to do this kind of work pro bono and help as many people as possible who are in Daniel's situation. As a parent, I cannot imagine the pain every day of knowing that your child is locked up in a cage for crimes he didn't commit. And I honor Daniel's parents, Eric and Kamiko, and I welcome Eric to the mic. Thank you.
I'll be the last one, I promise. But again, I want to thank everybody, all these supporters. I see people from my hometown of Enid here. I see people all the way from Texas, Florida, across the United States helping us, and we really appreciate it. I'm glad to speak for my son today, but now I can finally speak openly as a retired police officer advocating for justice for the wrongfully convicted. I'm no longer worried, like many active police officers were that I've talked to, of losing my job or for speaking out against this kind of injustice. I joined my daughter and these fine folks speaking out against bad, biased police investigations, corruption, and false political correctness. This is something that has to stop. You know, there's nothing my wife and I, Kamiko, and I want more than to see our son hug him and wish him a happy 39th birthday. Watch him blow out those candles on his mom's homemade German chocolate cake. And that's the only gift we wanted today. But 10 years ago, that privilege was taken away from us. As the national media spotlight intensified on his case involving white officers and black citizens, Oklahoma officials chose a path of political convenience. They sacrificed one officer, our son, to protect the careers, property, and the public image of their institution. As a retired military veteran and a retired law enforcement officer of 27 years, what sickens me most is knowing how many officers participated in this fraud. Through open records, requests, and discovery depositions from the civil rights lawsuit, we understand far more of what happened behind the scenes. It's disgusting. We've been told repeatedly by our attorneys that some judges stop listening the moment they hear the word conspiracy involves more than 3 people. That mindset is exactly how corruption takes root. It gives permission to investigators and prosecutors to fabricate cases against citizens, using our case, the blueprint of the state of Oklahoma versus Daniel Holtzclaw, with no regard for the lives that destroyed along the way. Let me be clear. Our son is 100% innocent of every charge against him. Daniel followed me into police service because he believed in honor. He was raised to respect his elders, respect women, respect people of all backgrounds, and respect the law. And I swear to you, if Daniel had done any of these accusations, it would not be it would be indefensible. Justice would have already been served. We would have walked away. I understand people want
together here to demand justice, and we appreciate that. That's exactly what we are doing here today. But I don't understand a few things. I don't understand where one-size-fits-all approach that insists every allegation of sexual assault must be accepted without question. That mindset leaves no room for false accusations. That's the mindset that the investigators in this case had. They just accepted everything they said. Are we really saying no one lies? That's not justice. True victims deserve a fair and thorough process. So do the accused. 10 years later, the memories from that courtroom still haunt us. Several of our speakers have talked about it. The shouting from the outside was so loud, it stopped the witness testimony. Protesters photographed the jurors, confronted people in the elevators and the bathrooms, and chanted, "Give him life," long before they understood any of the facts. Former DA David Prater weaponization of the media fueled this mob mentality and spread misinformation that poisoned the entire process.
Yes.
And the judge, we've already heard about Judge Henderson. He allowed it. He told the jury to ignore the chaos outside instead of controlling his own courtroom. Later, of course, Henderson was exposed for having sexual relationships with the district attorneys, with the assistant district attorneys, including those in the sex crime unit. Yet he's the one who was allowed to preside over a 2-day secret hearing related to key forensic issues in Daniel's case. He banned Daniel's attorney while every government official involved was allowed in. And afterward, he simply declared nothing happened that Daniel needed to know about. Daniel's post-conviction DNA expert is keeping pretty busy right now after finally being able to see the sealed material. Unlike Henderson, Daniel's expert actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to forensic science. He's the one who wrote the direct appeal affidavit that prompted the secret hearings in the first place. This is crazy. Evidence related to those secret documents that we used to defend Daniel must be filed under seal, hidden from the public that pays these official salaries. It just doesn't make sense why it has to be all hidden. How many other cases did Timothy Henderson compromise? Where was the transparency? Again, how can a man engaged in his own misconduct set a judgment of our son? Daniel's entire life showed discipline, hard work, and integrity, from his first job up in Enid at McDonald's to his stellar football accomplishments on the field and on to the Oklahoma City Police Department, where he was praised by supervisors and was on track to join the gang unit before these accusations came out. When the detectives dug into Daniel's past, they found nothing, and they dug. Not from the neighbors, not from the co-workers or classmates. They found nothing. They looked everywhere in this past, but there was nothing. Nothing to try to tie him into a serial rapist that they tried to make that image in. And they just went on. They think he snapped. It's just crazy. So instead, they built the case by recruiting women with long criminal histories and telling the public that Daniel targeted marginalized women because no one would believe them. They searched his patrol logs, the information sheets, and his records, and contacted women solely to add them to the case that he was involved with. By what means we may never know. These biased detectives sought out many accusers to make their racial bias case stronger, because the jurors might not believe one, but if they are many, then something will likely stick. One woman even accused Daniel after he saved her life when she swallowed a vial of PCP. It's just crazy. It sounds like a Hollywood script, but it became our reality and Daniel's nightmare. Now I want to share something that we haven't shared before publicly with all of you. From 2016 until February 24, Daniel was in the protective custody in Colorado, living under an alias for his protection. DOC set him up to be out of state for his protection, they said. A few times his identity was exposed when TV shows were shown over the prison TV channels that aired his case in particular. But there were no serious threats and no violence. He worked hard to mentor other inmates. He took pride in holding a trustee job, and he prepared to take college classes. Life was difficult, but Colorado treated him like a human being. Now that changed abruptly in February of 2024. Without warning, Daniel was pulled from a cell, shackled, and flown by U.S. Marshals to another state prison out of Colorado, one notorious for human rights. Because of the interstate combat transfer, everything was done in secrecy. We still don't know who authorized it, and they refused to give us answers to our questions of why he was treated that way. We think it was a direct on our attack on us, our family, for trying to bring his case to the light of the nation. His personal property disappeared. His alias was removed, exposing him as a danger as a prior police officer. He was falsely labeled as a violent offender. He was thrown in solitary confinement with several mentally ill inmates, some who screamed all through the night. He lost 40 pounds when that transfer happened. It was just mind-boggling what the punishment they were inflicting on him. We have not been able to see him yet because it takes longer. We can no longer make that drive in a single day, and so we haven't been able to visit. When we do, it will likely be a no-contact visit behind plexiglass or in a cage. We're told that he cannot stand, drink water, or even use the restroom during the 3-hour visit time that they allowed him to have visits. Even though he said he would love to have visitors, Daniel has discouraged us to visit because of the terrible conditions. It certainly feels like retaliation. Retaliation for our family speaking out, the exercise of our First Amendment rights, and for fighting to expose wrongful convictions in Oklahoma. And if this state can do this to Daniel, they can do it to any son or daughter. Our birthday wish for Daniel is simple. Oklahoma expose the lies, end the secrecy, restore his freedom, and hold every responsible person accountable. Everybody, thank you so much. And on behalf of Kamiko and myself, I want to express our thanks to our attorney, Ben Munda, our advocates, our volunteers here today, the exonerees, the experts, the researchers, and every reporter here who has taken the time to look beyond the headlines and discover the truth about Daniel. Thank you for standing with us for justice, for transparency, and thank you for standing with our son. That's going to conclude our press conference today. And again, we really thank you so much for us.
I am Eric Holtzclaw, Daniel's mother. I just want to say thank you for your support. Thank you!
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be able to talk after this and to our supporters. If you would hang tight, we'd like to talk to you. Thank you.
Oh gosh, I am a nut. Okay, so that was the entire Facebook live stream that Jenny did this afternoon. The wind really made it difficult to hear some of the really well, it was all important, but to hear some of the speakers and what they were saying. So Jonah is fairly new to Daniel's case, and asking how many accusers OD'd since the trial. Sorry, I misread that one. I don't know. Sorry, I misread that. I thought you were asking how many accusers were there. I don't know if any have. I know that I know Cherie and I try to keep up with as many of them as we can, but they're all deep in hiding, trust me. So it's hard to find out any information. And so I don't know if I know that Daniel's dad, Eric, Mr. Holtzclaw, mentioned that the U.S. Marshals came and I might be being a little bit dramatic here, but I don't think I'm really far off. But kind of, in the dead of the night, I don't know if that's a fact, but it's what it feels like in the dead of the night, came and took Daniel with no warning, no pre-planning or anything on Daniel's part, and just moved him from Colorado across the country to one of the worst. I don't know if you heard Mr. Holtzclaw say it or not, but one of the worst prisons in the United States for violations of human rights. And for what? For what? I mean, Daniel hadn't had, to my knowledge, via phone calls and letters back and forth with Daniel. Daniel never had any write-ups or confrontations or anything that occurred in where he was in Colorado that would warrant such a drastic move. And I'm not sure if Mr. Holtzclaw said exactly where across the country he went. So I don't want to say it here publicly in case he didn't. Just trust that it's across the United States, east of Colorado where he was. And yeah, I had many phone calls with Daniel during the initial first couple of months or so, few months after he was moved, and once he was able to actually have phone calls. And the difference between the way he sounded and spoke when he was here in Colorado, or not here because I'm in Utah, but when he was in Colorado versus the way he sounded, and I visualized him looking in where they moved him to. It was heartbreaking because it just didn't sound like the same man. And I don't really like to talk about it too much because it's really emotional, and so I'm not going to go into much about those phone calls, but as if his sentence of 263 years isn't bad enough, even if he did commit any of those crimes, which I am telling you with my 100% surety and knowledge in my heart and soul, I know he didn't commit any of them. But even if he did, to move him to where they moved him without any provocation from where he was in the facility in Colorado, just fucking stinks. I mean, it's just wrong. And it's been rough. So, not, that sounds really awful for me to say, but just having knowledge of what those first few months were like for him based on what he shared with me personally, I cried a lot of nights, especially after I would speak with him on the phone, because I felt like I was talking to a completely different person, and it just fires you up even more, how horrific Daniel's case is. Jonah is asking why in Colorado for Oklahoma convictions. They had to move him out of Colorado, or out of Oklahoma, because he was, even though he had I don't know what the word is right now, even though he had a cover name, it wasn't his real name where he was. he was still, they were accusers and the believers of accusers and who else knows, were trying to locate him, and in Oklahoma, and trying to locate him, and God knows why. I mean, I don't know what they were going to think they were going to do, but anyway, allegedly, he was moved out of state for his protection, and he did have a cover name. I know that's a different word, Sherry. What is the different word?
Alias?
Alias, thank you. Gosh, I struggle with some of the most simple words sometimes. But anyway, so he did have an alias, and he wasn't identified as a former police officer where he was in Colorado. But when they moved him to where they did, east, he lost his alias, and his position as a former police officer was no longer hidden. Which, gosh, which puts him still in so much danger where he is. And it's sometimes, I can't even imagine being a family member or a close friend of Daniel's, going to bed with that every single night. Not a family member, not related. I'd like to believe that I'm a close friend, but even that relationship renders me practically like on pins and needles, thinking and wondering and worrying about his safety. And, some of you may know that I had both of my younger brothers who spent a fair amount of time in prison here in Utah. And, I know Utah, again, we have this perceived bubble that we live in, and to an extent we do, or we did, at least until September 10th of 2025. But, I think people on the outside who don't know Utah just see it as a place that is overrun with righteous or self-righteous Mormons, and that, there's no danger here. There's no, bad actors. There's no, not like the rest of the country. And we're certainly not like the rest of the country. I admit that, but we're not immune to it at all. And I have no idea where I was. Oh, my brother's in prison. See, guys, even a few months off doesn't cure my wandering brain. So that's just a part of who I am. But my brothers, so my youngest brother, as some of you may know, is a Black man, and I'm clearly white, a proud white American woman. But he has always been targeted, growing up in Southern California, as a thug and a gang member, and he did have some of those things going on in his life growing up in Southern California. Moved up here to Utah, brought his bullshit up here, and it affected some lives here in Utah. And because of what he and my other brother did, they had trials and they went to prison, and rightfully so. They should have. What they did, I mean, they didn't kill anybody, they didn't physically harm anybody, but what they did, they deserved to go to prison. And my brother Jason, the baby, the one who's still living, he'll tell you, yeah, this is many, many years ago, and he's long since been released from prison, and but he admits, I did heinous, heinous bullshit, things that, harmed other people, their livelihood, blah, 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 blah. But my brother, Jason, is a big, big black man. And in Utah prisons, he was in two of the big prisons here. He was protected because, well, I shouldn't say protected. Nobody screwed with him. And therefore, nobody screwed with my other brother because, he was a short, white, stubby, fat guy. And oftentimes in the prison down in Gunnison, south of where we live, oftentimes they were cellies down there. I mean, that's how, they weren't accused of any of the things like what Daniel was for sure. But still, the point is, Jason was created his own personality, persona, and none of it was fake, but nobody screwed with him. And he was one of those people in prison. He never had like fights or anything like that, but he didn't have to, just because his persona was just so big and his personality was so big. He didn't have to fight anybody. But anyway, my point is that, even here in prison, watching or in Utah, watching my brothers go through the system like that, I thought that was bad. I thought what my brothers went through was bad. But, sad as those days were, warranted or not, I can't even imagine how Daniel, side by side, how the two living situations or existing situations are so vastly different. And again, I just keep going back to, and for what? There's just no other case like Daniel's where 13 women accuse one cop of some of the most heinous acts against women, and they get away with it. Their lies, and their lies, which are coached by the investigators and the prosecutor and the judge in all of this, and they get away with it. And an innocent man who was a cop goes to prison for 263 years. 18 out of 36 charges they found Daniel guilty on. And one of the jurors, and we've talked about all of these things on the channel in the past, so, I'm not saying anything new unless you're new to the case or to the situation, but they just were able to say all the things that they said and get coaching, literally getting coaching from the investigators and the gosh, I can't even think of his name right now, Timothy Musney, who was the investigator supervisor, creating a demographics list of women that he wanted the detectives to go after to get them to accuse Daniel. And I know when I talk about this and I say these things without, a lot more context, it sounds like a little fishy that, that I believe this. But Sheree and I spent years, 6 years, I believe we're on 6 years now, researching and studying and going through every available document that we had on this case. Sheree's the quiet one here all the time, but she will tell you that we spent hours and hours and hours, weeks, months, and years going through every single piece of document and evidence there is or was. And I know that Sheree will agree with me when I say we know, based on our own research and digging and timelining and everything else, we know Daniel's innocent. I've been trying to we've been trying to, do live streams now since I know it was September or October of whatever year it was we started. But been trying for years to get more awareness on Daniel's case. I suck at making, I'm getting better at making videos. I haven't done any for quite a while, but I'm getting better at making videos. But some of the earlier videos that I was editing early on when I, first got into it are really bad. I admit that. I look back at some of those, compared to some of the better ones that I have done recently that I have more experience and knowledge of. Yeah, some of those are really, really bad, but the information you need is still there in those videos. And I can't think of much that we haven't covered in Daniel's case that anyone would need to know to at least take an interest in it and take it more seriously. And in the years that we've had this YouTube channel, I'm so sad that I think actually tonight we went up to 775 subscribers. So I think 2 people subscribed tonight during this live stream. So thank you to whoever you are. We really appreciate it. And those of you who do come every time we do a live stream, thank you so much as well for being patient and sticking with me. None of the lack of content is Cherie's fault whatsoever. It's all on me. I'm telling you right now, after this Facebook live stream today, my fire has been fueled, and I'm angry all over again, I guess you could say. Not that I never wasn't, but I'm angry all over again. And now that a couple of things have been made public, such as Daniel having a new attorney and Daniel being moved from Colorado, there's a few more things, those are a couple more things that we can talk about. And, honestly, I don't really have much more, information beyond that. But I don't know, man. I just, in what is it, Cherie, 6 years, 5 years, and 775 subscribers? Is it?
We started in the fall of 2020.
It's only 5. Okay.
So it's a little over 5.
Well, yeah, the channel, but we had been researching and involved in stuff way before that. I was chicken. I wanted to do the YouTube channel much earlier than I did, but I was really chicken and afraid. And in fact, if you go back and watch the very first video we did, I don't know if you remember or not, Cherie, but I woke up that morning and my entire face had broken out in hives. And I was a nervous fucking wreck. I didn't want to do it, but I thought, go ahead, sorry.
You were up all night the night before. Oh, so nervous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was just a wreck. And, I didn't have anybody, helping me to figure out how YouTube works. I mean, it was just all me getting in on the internet, trying to figure shit out all by myself. And, I'll do that. That's what it takes. I'm getting older now, and I much prefer more help and guidance from people like Jonah and Glenn and, anybody who has any idea how any of it works. But because it's every single time I try to do something, there's something new that I have to figure out. Anyway, so yeah, just the years, it has just been very emotional all through it. But I learned that when you're digging and you're grinding away in those documents and trial transcripts and all that stuff, you're not necessarily as emotional, or I wasn't anyway. I haven't been, but me being lazy, or I don't want to say lazy because it hasn't really been laziness, but me being away from it for the last few months uh, reminds me how emotional this entire case has made me over the last 6 years or so. And I've never been as passionate about anything as I am Daniel's case. And 263 freaking years just is mind-boggling to me. And I really, really hope that anybody who watches this either over on X or, who catches this on a replay somewhere, please share it with people that you know that might be interested in something like this, or people that you know who believe Daniel's guilty and might be someone who's called him some of the vile names he's been called. Maybe offer them another opportunity to look at the case again, especially, with the information, the way Jenny broke it down today, and Michelle and JJ Humphrey. I'm telling you what, he's a short guy, but he has a very loud voice. So I'm so sorry. Whatever. You know what? Thank you so much. That's so sweet. And because YouTube has done bizarre, weird things with all of our screen names, I'm so sorry, but I don't recognize your screen name as it is right now. If you don't mind sharing what I might know it as from before the YouTube mix-up. But thank you so much for being, for paying attention since the beginning. You're so sweet to say that. And Under Your Scars, thank you so much. I know you are always busy, girl, and I appreciate any time you can give us. And Jonah, the dark underbelly of Utah is often hidden, but if you know, you know. Don't get me started. That's for a whole different channel. Mine. Anyway, gosh, I'm just rambling because I'm fired up right now. So I have a couple of things that I want to do very rapidly in the next week. Yes, I know it was been really, really hard on you, Chaz, and I know you step away for long periods of time because it's so difficult. I get it. Oh, Mazzy, yes. Yes, thank you. I don't know what happened to everybody's name, but I'm so happy that you're here and, still believing and still supporting. It means a huge deal to us. Well, not to us, but to Daniel. But 775 subscribers in 5 years, come on. That's bullshit that people aren't interested in wrongful convictions more than that after this much time. I get it. It's not a popular niche, I guess. I hate some of the buzzwords, but it's not a popular content. But listen, I'm listening to and watching other cases of wrongful convictions or whatever going by on YouTube. And I'm like, why is nobody talking like this? Where's the passion like this for Daniel's case? It's just not there. And I don't understand why. So I just need you guys who are here watching to help me get this going again. So a couple things. I want to, I want to clean up the Facebook Live video a little bit with the sound so that it's easier to hear the speakers, and, perhaps add in some subtitles where it's not as easy to hear. Maybe bring the speakers a little closer so that you can actually see them better. And none of that is Jenny's fault. That's just, that's just the way it happened and the way it worked. And, but I just, for my brain, that's what I want to do. And if it will help some of you as well, then that's great too. The second thing I want to work on getting out to you guys is for some of you who were here at the very beginning, when I played about a minute of a song, without Cherie and I on the screen yet, that is a song that I want to edit in my video software, by adding photos of Daniel and subtitles to the lyrics. The song was written and sung by Michelle Malkin's son. His name is Cherie. God.
Julian Daniel.
Malkin. Julian Daniel Holtzclaw, actually, or Julian Daniel Malkin is his name, actually. And I think he was 12 years old at the time that he wrote this song and sang it.
I can't remember, but he was young.
He was very young. And it is, listen, I could tell you, I could tell you to search for it and find it and listen to it for yourself, but I'd rather you not, because I want to make it a special video. And I talked to Michelle Malkin about it. Both she and Julian are on board with this, that I make edit a video that will include, pictures of Daniel and the lyrics and things like that for you guys. But the song is, I don't know, probably just because I'm so emotionally involved or attached and, believe in it so much. I believe the song is beautiful and amazing. So I can't wait to share that with you guys. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up, because I dropped the ball on it, but it wasn't because I was not trying necessarily. I had a really great team together that was going to help us read every single police report, pretrial transcript, and trial transcript. And we were working on that, and the people that were helping us read are phenomenal, but they're normal people. They're unlike me. They're normal people. They have jobs and families. They work, and some of them have very, very busy YouTube or whatever content that they're also putting out. Richard, for instance, he has a full-time job. He has a family, and he does a YouTube podcast on his almost every night of the week. Youth is the only way I can explain that kind of energy. Youth. So Davey, he's got a baby and a family. So Jennifer, everybody, they're just busy, normal people, and they, as much as they really, really want to, they can't commit the time that it's going to require to do that, what we wanted to do with the transcripts. I'm not going to say that's never going to happen. Cherie and I have had some conversations about it. So I'm not saying that will never happen, because it will. We just I need to settle down a little bit about it. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Schedules can be worked around. If there's only 2 people who can read and record and present the thing, then I just need to loosen up and let it be that, if that's what it needs to be. Because it doesn't matter all the other stuff. That's all, having 5 or 6 different people helping us read. Yeah, that is great for trying to, make it more realistic and all that stuff. But really, it's just about getting the truth about what went on in the trial and everything before it and after. That's all that matters, is getting that out there, no matter how it's done. So I have to work that out in my head, how we're going to go forward with that and do it. So anybody out there interested in helping out, please let us know. We're happy to take someone who can read for one session or whatever it is. Any help that people want to give, offer is great. Let's see, I do want to catch a couple of Jonah, who is a great researcher, by the way, and always keeps me grounded. there's several people in the chat who keep me grounded, and Jonah's one of them. He says, just looked into the longest prison sentence. 262 years is a long time, but someone who abused a 6-year-old girl got 5,003 years. Good for that person. Good. I'm happy about that. That you know, somebody who abuses a child would get logical, irrational, undoable amounts of time. So yeah. Anyway, I'm curious, Jonah, for more information on that, though, because now I'm curious about who was that, where was it, when was it? Just curious, not trying to look into it, just curious. And Shad says, just Rhonda, wrongful convictions are still talked about. I've never been able to understand why the subs are so low. It makes me sad. I don't have anyone to share it with. You know what? I understand, and I don't know why either. I mean, it could just be the way, I don't know. I don't know why. Well, I have an idea why, and this is just my own thought and opinion about it. This involves a former cop, and the hatred for law enforcement in general in our country, I would say probably at least over the last 20 years. People see that he's a former cop and they're just like, fucking pig. They just automatically assume because he was a former cop that he did every bit of it and he's guilty and he is right where he is. And I get a lot of comments from people saying just those things, which is disturbing because that shows the lack of ability to have any kind of logical reasoning, open-mindedness, being able to think for oneself, you know. And I'm not saying I'm a superhuman because I feel those ways, but you know, that's what it just is so sad. I almost want to believe that if Daniel wasn't a former cop, this would be a very different. I think we would have a lot more subs and a lot more attention if he weren't a former cop. That's just my opinion. Let's see, Shaz. I'm so happy to see you, Shaz. It's been probably over a year since we've seen you. My sister was a lawyer before she retired, but isn't interested unless it's in Oz. Yeah, I get it. I mean, you know, it's, you know, I know there's a case from the UK that I'm not involved in it, but I'm still interested in it, a wrongful conviction. And, you know, so I can't go outside of the United States for all of them, but, you know, there are some that are interesting to me. But if, you know, a lot of people feel that way. It's not happening in my country. I don't care. Fair. Let's see. Jonah says 12 is late middle age for a minor. Yeah, you're right. You're so logical sometimes. Oh my goodness. You guys, you know how I am. I like to go through some of the comments. Shaz, there are so many self-entitled people in this world that probably doesn't help. They don't care about. Oh, you're right. I completely agree with that. You know, yeah. Again, that's a topic that I'm passionate about, but is definitely, you know, one that I would probably talk about more on my other channel at some point, if ever. So, yeah, but I agree with you. And Wiki, I can't believe you're still using Wiki, but Wikipedia lists of longest prison sentences. It covers all long sentences around the world. Okay. All right. Good to know. I'm pretty much off of Google altogether, and I can't tell you the last time I went to Wikipedia. That's just me. So, you know, I think back to, I think I mentioned this in one of Robert's chats the other day when he was talking about Wikipedia, information he'd gotten from Wiki. I remember when I was in college, and that's been several years now, thank God, since I graduated. But I remember whenever we would, we're prepping to write research papers, my professors would always say, some of them wouldn't even accept sources from Wikipedia. We weren't allowed to use Wikipedia as sources in a lot of my, particularly in my criminal justice courses. But some of them, said that, they would allow us one or two sources from Wikipedia, maybe one, but we were always encouraged not to use Wikipedia as much as possible, back then. So I didn't realize it then as much as I do now. So, but thank you for that. I appreciate all of the research you do. Whatever says, I'm also in the UK, but your courts are so much more open with cameras. Well, and I try not to pay a lot of attention, but I know that, there's some transparency issues, trying to be careful with my words here, going on in Europe, or across the pond, as my daughter likes to say. And yeah, so yeah, our courts are more open, but they're not open enough, in my opinion. I mean, Oklahoma, for instance, Daniel's case wasn't televised. Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom. That was 2015. What? And and by the way, I can't think of any trial that I'm aware of. Cherie might know differently. I can't think of any trial in Oklahoma that's been allowed to be televised. Why? What are you so afraid of by having cameras in your courtrooms? I don't get it. Don't understand it. And I really don't like the fact that we can't have cameras in our federal courtrooms and trials, because I think that's where we need the most transparency. So we are more open, yes, whatever than perhaps in the UK, and I am grateful for that. And I hope that your country starts to heal, and start to regain some freedoms that you've had. I hope I'm not like being too forward with my thoughts for the UK. Okay, we're going to take this last one, and Jonah says the world record is 141,078 years in Thailand for corporate fraud, pyramid scheme case, but total is symbolic. Yeah, for sure. The woman got 20 and served 8. Yeah. Looks good on paper, right? And that's also this other last thing, and then we're going to kind of wind up. Two things really quick. Under Your Scars became a new member of the channel while we were live. She's been a member of the channel from the very beginning, since we had memberships. But if the content creator isn't putting out any content, people don't want to pay for a membership when there's nothing being produced. So I get it. No, you didn't see Daniel in the trial. There was very brief periods when the media was allowed to hold their cameras in the window in some parts of the trial, and you could see Daniel. But what you might be thinking about is the day that Daniel was convicted and sentenced. Then transparency they were all about the transparency at that point, which another thing that just pisses me off. But so you might be thinking about that. But the whole trial, no, it wasn't shown as a whole. Yeah, it was the sentencing, which I can never ever watch again. It's just too heartbreaking. excuse me. And then the whole thing with the vertical versus horizontal thing, oh my gosh, that is a shit show for me, in my opinion. I hadn't been in StreamYard Studio for months. So when I was scheduling, I'm getting all these, I hit, schedule or whatever it is, and it says, oh no, you have to do this first. And it, has all the red boxes, all the boxes with the red outline. I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I don't know how others feel about that. Just this one experience, I don't like it. And it took Jonah kind of back and forth to help me figure it out, that you can participate in either. It's two separate chats, and Kat, we all just get along, who's my great friend Jennifer was saying it to me in the beginning. That I was streaming in vertical, and I was like, what do you mean? I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. So I will be much more careful, and I'll do some educating of myself in StreamYard and what all the changes are. I think we all got along just fine when it was always horizontal. So I'm going to keep it all horizontal from now on, if everybody's fine with that, because I didn't like that at all. I can comment here in the studio to everybody, and both landscapes, I guess, or both channel versions get those comments. But if I wanted to go into YouTube and make a comment, I would have to go to both of them to make the same comment, which is just, ugh. Anyway, how do you feel about that, Cherie? She might be asleep. It's very late where she is.
No, I'm not sleeping. Yeah, I think it kind of cuts down on if both chats don't show, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The interaction could be limited. I like it better the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Because if you're not, and Jonah did this, he opened up, he finally said, oh, I'm going to go over and check out. And when he said that, initially, I thought he was going to, he had another live stream he wanted to watch somewhere. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you for being blah, blah, blah. Then I realized, no, it's two separate YouTube openings. So I don't like it. We're not going to do that again. And I just have to figure out how to eliminate it. To keep it from happening, because I agree, especially with as few subscribers as we have, and on a live stream like this one, where it was not well prepared by me, and not really scheduled very early or early enough, we have very few viewers throughout. And when you're splitting the viewers up between either a vertical chat or a horizontal chat, I don't know. I don't see how that's good for me, for my brain. And it does on such a small channel like ours, with low chat activity as it is. It does limit the interaction that the chatters can have, between themselves. So, because a lot of times that's where the fun is being had, is in the chat, most of the time anyway. So we're not going to do that again, or at least if I can figure it out. And I'm sure, somebody's going to have, be able to tell me how that works. Richard would tell me, stop using StreamYard, just use OBS. That's a no-go for me for the rest of my life. I've been there, done that, tried it many, many times. It's just works really great for most content creators, not this one. I can't do it. I don't even want to try to do it again. So anyway, so I'm going to work on the videos. I'm going to try to get this one cleaned up from today. I wanted to hear, and this is not what we heard, I'm just making sure you all know this. Please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. I wanted to hear that the post-conviction relief motion had been filed. That's not what we heard. Please don't, misquote me on that. That's just what I wanted to hear. we didn't hear that, and that's okay. I'm fine with them doing whatever they need to do behind the scenes. And the older I've gotten, the more patient I've become. And so I can be patient, and we will know what we need to know when it's time to know it. It's just a new theme I'm going to start shouting everywhere in every chat. But anyway, that's how I feel about that. But that is not what we got today. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. But we did get the introduction of the new attorney, Ben Munda, and or Munda, and Mr. Holtzclaw did finally make public that Daniel was moved from Colorado prison to a prison in the East. And again, I'm not going to say where, because I don't know that, like Cherie said, I don't know that that got said. So that's kind of where I'm at. Cherie, do you have anything? I mean, I know you never do, because I never let you talk. And
I was really inspired by what they had to say today, and looking forward to when the post-conviction brief is filed and Michelle Malkin's new podcast, and things are happening, and I'm glad.
Yeah, some movement that we haven't seen in years, really. So yeah, I agree. And then what about that Corruptahoma for a podcast? I can't wait. As soon as we can find out that information or get a link for that, we'll definitely share it with you guys.
Yeah.
And Cherie and I, like I said, with the research and years that we spent in Daniel's case, but not just in Daniel's case, but also researching the entire system, particularly in Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma. I'm telling you guys, I know most states are corrupt, most counties and cities are corrupt. I get it, I understand it. We've seen a lot of them. Canton, Massachusetts, whoa, out of this world crazy corrupt, in my opinion. But telling you, I know Missouri has a rough, Missouri, maybe Alabama, maybe some other states in the South, really corrupt systems. I know that, but I mean, I know there's corruption in Indiana in a lot of cases. So it's I haven't spent a lot of time researching those states or counties. I have Oklahoma, and it's bad. It's so bad. I mean, what they told you in that Facebook stream, live stream, was just, I mean, they were naming off things that were really valid and truthful, but that's not even, those are just little bits of it. So there's so much more in the history, and we don't really say it very much anymore, but going all the way back to at least Bob Macy as the DA, Joyce Gilchrist, and Elaine Taylor. So those are old videos that you'll find on our channel, several years ago. I do have some playlists that are more of the content for the last couple of years, but I haven't been good at keeping up with that either. It's hard to manage all that stuff by myself, even though I'm not doing much of anything else. But, you can go back and watch some of those things, and you can learn about some of the corruption that we've, found in Oklahoma during our research years. So let's see, whatever. So I don't know anything about it yet. I mean, I don't have a link or if it's started or anything like that, and I'll find out from Michelle. But Michelle Malkin announced in this live stream that they did today on Facebook that she's starting a podcast called Corruptahoma. So soon as I get that information, I'll share it with you in a community post or in a future live stream that we'll do. But right now, I don't have any information. And yes, Karen Reed. Oh my gosh, that was just the most. I'm not even going to start. I think we did one video about the Karen Reed case, the second trial. So, yeah, we'll definitely share that for you guys that are interested. I was personally shocked. The news showed Tone victim reacting. She had never. Oh yeah. Oh yes. She'd never. I was actually going to post that on Facebook earlier this week. That video that you're talking about. I'm still going to, but I know what you're talking about. That was Sherry Ellis, and whoa. So hopefully, hopefully, we'll be able to start making more video clips like that from the civil lawsuit depositions. There's lots of interesting stuff in those. So hopefully we'll be able to start doing more of that again. Right now, that it's all up to the attorney and what he, wants to, make public. And so, of course, we're going to follow that first and foremost. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. For those of you who have stuck around the entire time, listen to the live stream video they did. It was, to Cherie and I, like Cherie said, very inspirational, and it kind of lights a fire, fuels a fire again a little bit. So those are some of the things you can look forward to from me, from us, in the very coming near future. Some of them might be posted as just either premieres or just videos. I've never done that on YouTube, but that might, I'll figure that out too, and that might be how some of these things come to you. But we'll definitely, try to do better at, coming to you more regularly, like we used to. Again, my fault, not Cherie's in any way, shape, or form. So if you guys have any ideas that you would like, and I put this on a community post a week or so ago, but if you have any ideas of things you'd like us to talk about Daniel's case that maybe you're not clear on, or you'd never heard of, or you're curious about, whatever, anything, please, just make a comment on any video, or make, on a community post. Let us know if there's something that you'd like us to cover. And, we'll do our best to bring to you everything that we have, that we can, and, help dig up some subscribers for us. I don't know if the number really counts, but it's the awareness that means the most. So there are a few really important links in the description. So follow those, and we'll come back again. I'd like to keep on a more of a schedule of Sunday afternoons, because everybody's a lot less busy on that day. But I'm not going to make any promises on that. I can't. Even with no life of my own, I can't make a promise that it's always going to be like that. So I really do love all of you guys who are here, who have listened, who are listening to me ramble all the time. Take the information that we do offer, and hopefully, start your own fire in your own belly, and get when I say excited, I don't mean like woohoo, we're excited. I mean excited about, like, we're going to do that. We're going to be the voices, and we're going to be loud, and we're going to make sure others are hearing about this horrific wrongful conviction case. And I appreciate all of you guys, and until the next time you get a notification randomly, let's see, gosh, I really have a hard time I don't want to let these go. I do have a question regarding Daniel, but I realize I have joined so late, so we'll hopefully get to chat again more. Oh, for sure. And if you're not in our Discord, nothing is ever going on there, probably because of myself. But if you're in a member of our Discord, please, don't hesitate to jump in there. Any room will do, and ask questions. Just tag Cherie or I, and we can answer the questions the best we can for you. So I'm happy to help, or just make a, ask the question on any video that you see. So that's fine too. Jonah, it's nice to see you get back in the game. Thank you. You should think about trying no on Sassy and keep what you're using. No, sorry, can't. Thank you so much for encouraging me and wanting me to do something different and better, but I can't. Nope. It's too stressful for me. This is now stressful enough. So we're just going to leave it. We're just going to stick with this. And Glenn Croy is my hero, my personal hero. And I'm so thankful to have you in our chat, for whatever amount of time you're able to, to join us, because I know you're super busy too. And, hopefully moving my direction soon, at least a little closer west. So thank you so much for being here. And I love you guys. We love you guys. And we'll see you very soon, whatever we have coming next.